Okay, let's go. Hi, Chad. How are you today?
Man, I am doing spectacular. How about you?
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you. Yeah, you have been very busy in the last few weeks in posting update videos on YouTube about the new facility. And we will talk about this a lot in this video because you're an expert. You're building this huge facility, maybe the biggest in the world right now, the biggest mine in the world. But first of all, I want to talk about you. Who is Chad Everett Harris?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. People ask me that a lot. Um, I'm a serial entrepreneur, right? At when I was a young kid, I was always hustling, right? I was always trying to do the next thing. And so as kind of time went along, I had the opportunity that my youngest son, Ashton Harris, introduced me to Bitcoin. And then he and I started mining together. And then as slowly as it evolved, I quickly learned that this business is about trying to create a scale and efficiency, right? So if you could create a scale, efficiency, and then build the infrastructure, it really like intrigues me, right? So I'm a thinker. Like I like to tinker with things, right? And so we ended up assembling a team of thinkers that like to assemble things with their hands. And it just turned out that like it was the right thing. And so it's interesting that I just turned 52 just the other day, and when I look back, I used to joke that when I was going to turn 50, I would get my act together, and I would decide that's what I would do. And on my fifth Texas, I was unloading trucks, the first trucks that arrived, and it was just ironic that at 52 turned 50, I figured out what I wanted to do with my life, which was, build this. I was able to share it with other people. And it just really, I think that's what it is. I think if you really ask what Chad Harris is or who Chad Harris is a guy that really wants to help other people experience things, right? Like I always say, like in these interviews, my number one cutoff is I love to convince people to do extraordinary things when they never thought they could do it.
I can feel this when I watch these your videos because, yeah, it's always big motivation behind this. I really like it, and I really like the effort you're putting in this because I know it's always work to do these kind of things, do it every day. Yeah, but for me, that's a great way to participate in in this construction and following the company. And yeah, I really appreciate this, and I think a lot of others too. So yeah, I hope to continue with all this cool stuff there on Twitter,
Yeah,
YouTube,
it,
so on.
it's interesting. A lot of people ask me, we were building all along. So I've recorded every single day of this adventure because I call it an adventure. I've recorded every single day since May of 2019. And before that, we were recording in 2017, like funny videos, right? That we make just for ourselves. But I started recording every single thing we did every day. And I don't share lots of it, right? I'm like, oh, one day in the future, I'll be able to use this clip. And what I find interesting is that along the way, I just felt that like this industry really needed somebody to like, and when I say it, I don't mean it this way, like tell the truth every day, right? Like, hey, we're building and we're having problems. Hey, we're building and we delivered this. Hey, gosh, it took longer. We went faster. Hey, we beat a record. We didn't. It's raining. It's the sun's out. It's raining. Like it's muds everywhere. And I don't think that, I think as an industry, we don't take a lot of time helping people understand that this is difficult stuff, right? This isn't like I read these press releases all day long, and it's like I'm building it. We're going to build a gigawatt. We're going to build bazillion gigawatts, whatever it is. And I'm like, hey, buy 100 miles of 4-inch conduit and get back to me, like, and have it delivered to your site and unload it, and realize it takes up 2 football fields to house that stuff. And it's so easy for people to say, oh, I could do that, or oh, I'm going to do that. So I decided to start sharing it, right? And it's like uncut. Like what I show you is the truth. And it's always funny. Like I have guests come, and we were just chatting before you started this. It's like, you should come here and visit. And they're like, are you the same guy that is on Twitter? I'm like, and then they leave it like, you are that same person. That's not an act. you know, and I think it's really important for this industry to be able to cross over to, when I use the word regular people, right? I don't mean regular people, but back to like a consumer retailer that can understand it in simple terms, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, and it's very complicated business what you're doing. It's very, yeah, highly sophisticated, this stuff these people are doing there. I mean, I was connecting this a sauna at home with the grid there, and I had a lot of issues there, and I'm expecting 750 megawatts. So I mean, that's a small nuclear power plant.
You know, there's a funny thing. Like one day, so Ashton Harris, you know, like I said, he's our CTO. He's how I got into this. And one day somebody was saying something, like somebody made some comment, and here, like they were like, "Oh yeah, but what about the network?" And he's like, "Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I deployed 100,000 machines my first time, right? Like, oh, I deployed 100,000 machines my first time." And when you kind of say it like that, you know, just like, and we joked, right? We're like, yeah, so we're not perfect, and yes, we have all kinds of improvements to make, but it's like, hey, 4 guys showed up in Texas with little to no money, built this facility, and like, hey, we've deployed 100,000 machines the first go around, right? And you kind of think about it from that standpoint, and then you start sharing the experience with people, and you start like trying to communicate the best way that you can. And my way happens to be visually or through video. And so it really is, it's been a great time.
Great. One of your last videos was about I think the record breaking stuff there. I think it's 177 days or 10.8 million seconds or something like this.
Yeah. So it's 117 days, right? 10,880,640 seconds, right? The first time around that we did it, it was 183 days, and it would have been faster, except that we had to close during COVID for a couple of weeks. And then, you know, just things like got in our way. So I was really, really determined, and we really like even like every team member here knew, like, we're going to break a record, whatever it is, we're going to break a record. And we spent a lot of time working on it. And on the day that we did break the record, even one of our team members, we had a big event here for all of our employees, and he was like, "I'm not stopping. I have to get my part done so we can start, you know, bringing power to the section of the facility." And afterwards, I was like, "You know, I really wish you would have like stopped and you could have spent time with your family that came." And he was like, No. It was more important for us to meet our deadline." And that's when you kind of know that it's not only important to me personally and to like everyone, but it's important to every single person here. And that's the reward, right? Like that's the real reward in building something like this, where everyone feels that they're part of it.
It seems like it's a very good community there. I mean, you can see it in the videos with the employees and so on. Yeah, how many employees do you have right now there?
So currently on site, we have about 160 full-time employees, and that includes Whinstone is also a level 3 security company in the state of Texas. So I always kind of joke, like, we carry guns, we can shoot you, right? You know, like that's the big thing here. So we have 24-hour day security. We also operate this business 24 hours a day. So we have 3 shifts, 3 8-hour shifts that our team members work in. And even like our inventory and shipping is open 24 hours a day now. So our goal is, you know, and I think that's kind of how we break records, or that's how we build so quickly, is that we operate on the idea that we can run 24 hours a day. We can receive shipments overnight. And one of the big things that we do, and that people that are in this industry don't see, is we move a lot of material at night in the dark, so that when like the larger construction teams show up in the morning, they have everything they need exactly where they need it. They spend no time waiting for materials. And so like we learn that through just efficiencies, right? And like each one of us has past experiences in scaling, you know, either construction or systems and processes. And so if you can eliminate all the small things in order to achieve your goals the next day, it really is, it's the way to do it. And I was, you know, we work 3 days. In 24 hours, we work 3 days, right? Compared to most people, you know.
Yeah.
And we do that all 7 days, right? So we do that all 7 days.
Good for the shareholders too.
It is. Yeah. And it's, and honestly, when you hear me in those videos say, It's important, the value that we bring our team members as well as the value to our shareholders. It's important. And I know that some people, some shareholders, they comment on Twitter, and I do a really good job at trying to be fair, right? You've read my comments, right? I'm always positive. I always ask for positive input. I always thank people, right? I always invite them, even when they're like upset, right? For whatever reason. But I do believe that if they just follow, recognize what we're doing, they're gonna see, like, they can't see the value that we're working on, but they're gonna see it. It's about to happen. And so I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, social media could be also very, very hard, but I mean, with your positive energy, I think, yeah, that really helps, because yeah, we have crazy pumps, we have crazy drops, and people will always freak out then and blame you for everything. Yeah, that's how it works sometimes, but yeah, it is how it is. Okay, so yeah, talking about the facility, yeah, you have already 300 megawatts running, and yeah, you're adding like 450 megawatts there. It looks like the building F, the construction is completed there. We have the roof there with the Sprung technology. It looks like it's going to be an immersion cooled building.
Yep, that's correct. That's correct. So let's run through it for a second.
Yeah.
So our original construction was 300 megawatts, 3 buildings, right? So we built transmission tied into a 750 megawatt metered switch in the Sandow switch across the road. And then we built the 300 megawatts initially with 3 buildings. Currently right now, when Riot Blockchain acquired Whinstone this summer in May, they immediately put in play an expansion plan. So we started our expansion plan of 400 megawatts and 4 new buildings. And 2 of those buildings would be air, and 2 of those buildings would be immersion. And the theory behind the air and immersion, like some people are like, oh, it was a 50-50. It really wasn't a 50-50. It was more that, when you're building at that kind of scale, like, you have to think about, what your strategy is going to be. Are you going to be self-mining, or potentially offering services to other people? And so you build that environment in that capacity, right? You kind of think forward. Interesting enough, when we designed the 4 buildings, all the buildings can be interchangeable, meaning components are all interchangeable. What we learned, we built everything to a 4,000 amp plug. We made it so it could be universal. We made it so you can do air or liquid, with other modifications, but the main infrastructure is designed so that we can have a little more lateral movement based on maybe ideas or changes in the future. And so when you asked about the immersion, so Jason Less, the CEO of Riot, announced, 2 months ago, a 200 megawatt industrial scale immersion project here. And we're rapidly building it. So this was a designed product that we've been working on for over a year here at Whinstone. And our teams integrated, meaning after Riot acquired Whinstone, our team started working together and created the opportunity for us to build at a faster pace. And that's when they announced the 400 megawatt expansion. This has allowed us to use and leverage our relationship with partners and vendors and create a product that isn't out on the market today. And so you've seen videos out there, and you've seen other things where we built a bus. Every miner has an on-off switch. Like, we spent a lot of time working on worker safety, backups. We've also spent a lot of time making sure that our immersion, we can isolate it all the way down to a small amount of miners in the event that we do have a failure that we have to work on, whether it's a miner or there's a power issue, it's all the way down to 30 machines. So we've isolated our systems and we've made it modular, meaning it's just literally, it's like plug it and play, plug it and play, plug it and play. And so that has really, really been the backbone of that building F. It'll be building F and G. And you had asked about the sprung structure, right? So the sprung structure, and a lot of people are like, oh, hey, what's the carnival tent, right? Like, what's the big top tent that you have? So because of supply chain issues, Lyle Terrio, Whinstone COO, did the research, and he spent a lot of time researching buildings because of the long lead items, because of steel. Sprung provided a solution to deliver a building in 7 weeks, right? And in this business, if you can have a building come in 7 weeks, you can build it in 7 weeks, and you can start mining on the 15th week of construction or sooner. Like, the whole deal is you can mine more, right? And so we made the decision to build 2 buildings like that, because the metal buildings were 28 to 32 weeks, right? And you'll see, I put a video out yesterday, and it was just a flyover, and you start seeing the erection of building D, right? We ordered that building 32 weeks ago, right? Way prior to the acquisition.
Okay, interesting.
A lot of those things we had done in the process leading up to the acquisition. We were thinking long term, like well before that, we were thinking long term. We didn't know that Bitcoin was going to, obviously nobody knew at the time when it started running up. We were buying infrastructure components a year ago because we knew it takes a year to get it. And so we were like, hey, if at least we order it, we have the opportunity. And so we just happened to order it at the right time.
I think that's a big advantage for Riot Blockchain or Whinstone. These experienced teams, I think this is underestimated right now from the market. But finally, I think the market will recognize it, because it's all about speed. Even when you're in a bull market right now, you have to plug in the miners. And talking about the miners, when do we have the first in the building F?
So I would tell you to, when somebody asks me a question that I have to be, I'm cautious in how I answer it, right? Because I'm going to be truthful in the process. But I think that later today, you might see some videos of miners coming off of trucks, right? Because Megan Brooks, Riot COO, like she's a mercenary. Like, she had planes, she got miners here, right? Like, we didn't talk about it because one of the things about, Riot and our culture is we want to tell you after we do it, right? You'll never see us talk about, oh, we're going to build something. No, we're going to show you along the way. Oh, the miners are here, right? Actually, they're here. They're in the parking lot. There's 18-wheelers stacked up out there, stacks on stacks on stacks. And our teams are so excited. I think there's like 4 forklifts running right now. And so I would expect that you'll start seeing it come to life right in front of your eyes, right here in real time, right here in Rockdale, Texas.
Very cool. I mean, these miners, they are very heavy. And I think a year ago, I calculated when you have like 100,000 miners or so, what you finally will have there, or even more. I mean, that's 1,000 metric tons or something like this. This is huge. It's a lot of chips, metal, material, cables.
I mean, you have to think about it, and I don't know this for fact, right? I know it just for here. And our building A, was our original customer, who we owe lots of gratitude to, and I really have enjoyed working with them. They've taught me a lot. We installed 64,000 S9s, right? Like, we deployed 64,000 S9s in one single building, right? Because, right. And why people are like, well, why did you choose that, Rob? Why didn't we? We were trying to figure out how to get one machine per square foot. That was our goal, like one machine per square foot, so it's interesting that's the choice that we made. But as you walk in there, it's just bizarre. Our shelves are 20 feet tall and there's just miners everywhere,
Yeah, I think it's loud there.
It is loud. It is loud.
Okay, I mean, the new buildings and the old buildings, they have like each 100 megawatt. So what about the phases there? I mean, can you start with, like, for example, like 10 megawatt or 20 megawatt, or do you have to fill the whole building with miners and then press start? No.
So our deployment schedule will be at 5 megawatt increments, right? So we have in our liquid building, it's in 5 megawatt increments because of how we built the infrastructure, and an air building, it's in 10 megawatt increments, meaning it's because of how the heat files work, right? You have opposing, you have heat that you collect and then you run it out of the building. So it's you have to have miners running on both sides. We can go all the way down to 2.5 megawatts, right? In the immersion and deploy, that's one system. But it'll be 5 megawatts at a time.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that sounds good. So you can scale this up in a lot of phases, and how the miners are delivered. Yeah, cool. Talking about immersion, I've seen pictures there, and from building F, you see the pipes there on the ground. I think this has to do with immersion.
That's correct.
When I also checked the pictures from the other mining companies, and there's Argo, which is also building an immersion facility there, and I was not able to see pipes there in the ground. So I was thinking maybe there's a different approach. What about the maintenance there? Would be interesting.
So I think the way you have to think about it is like everybody has a different philosophy, right? When we were designing the immersion system, we were eliminating the things that needed to be out of the way, right? So we put all the water lines in the concrete, right? So we engineered all the pipe, like we engineered the flow, everything about it. And we're like, there's no point to have this above the slab. And then we're like, we'll just put all the electrical in the concrete as well, right? I mean, it's an undertaking. It's a lot of work to do that, but it also cleans the site up, right? You don't have a bunch of overhead stuff. It also is a better safety factor for us, right? So we don't create trip hazards. Everything's underground. Yes, if there is a problem, some people are like, oh, but what do you have to do if you have a problem, right? You cut the concrete, you fix it, right? If there's a problem. But most of those things you don't have problems with, and all of it's pressure tested before it comes. And so we elected to do it that way. I think everybody has a different way they do it, right? And I think it's great, and we'll find out what system works the best. And that's kind of how this works in the world, right? Like when you're building things at scale, everyone has a different approach, right? And it's not that any one system is better at the time of design. I think it's better at application, right? So as you're using the system, applying it, and then making modifications and tweaks and making adjustments, that's when the system becomes very useful and more efficient. If that makes sense.
I think there are not a lot of examples for like 200 megawatts of immersion cooling mining facility in the world. I think, it could be the biggest one. Maybe, I don't know. I haven't done the research, but I think you have to do it all from the scratch, to design it for yourself, because there are no examples, isn't it? Like this.
That's pretty much what it is. There are no examples. By the way, there are no examples to build a 700 megawatt mining facility. There's no example. And it's interesting, I just talked about like you learn from your processes, right? Like our building A and our building D, while they're identical in structural appearance, we learned things from building A, building B, building C that we applied in building D and E, right? So it's like you just learn along the way. Like you get better and smarter. And because there's not, no one designing these facilities has the right answer, right? But the more that you build and the more that you scale and the more that you spend time working on it, the better the end results are. I think that's really important. I hear a lot of people out there, a lot of people that are in this industry that are doing similar things. They talk about, not having infrastructure, having, I'm going to do containers. I'm going to do buildings. I'm going to retrofit old buildings. We thought about all those things, and we elected to buy and build new. And because that at least gives us the opportunity to design and build the best product that our experts and our experience delivers, right? And I think that's like the key takeaway. And when you're thinking about these types of facilities, like you gotta find the best experts. You gotta put them all in one room. You gotta spend a lot of time working on it, and then you have to deliver results and test, and deliver results and test. And we spent a lot of time doing that.
Okay, the immersion thing. yeah, there was some news from Riot that you're expecting efficiency gains, and I think you have tests running there. I've seen this also in the video. Yeah, can you tell us a little bit more about the potential from Immersion?
So I think that, and it's widely known, right? So people that are doing immersion and at small scale and in other capacities, you have the ability to increase the efficiency of the machine, right? But you also have the ability, I think that you also have to look at it also differently. You also do have the ability to increase your efficiency of power, right? So while you have the opportunity to maybe increase the efficiency of your hash rate, there are opportunities where you can increase the efficiency of your power usage, right? And so there are a lot of different tests that I think people will be doing. And I think those tests are the ones that will tell you what the best results are, right? The idea is you want to be the lowest cost provider and or user of energy. And so in that process, you have to decide, what that efficiency is. We believe the efficiency is that you can increase the efficiency of a 100 megawatt building without spending any more additional money on capital construction, right? And our tests will guide us in the right direction. I think that's the right way to think of it.
Cool. Yeah, I mean the immersion thing, I expected it's more expensive than the air cooled thing. What can you tell us about the cost? We have more efficiency, but on the other side we have more capex, I guess. Is there
Correct.
a rough number you can share with us? How much does it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the right way for you to think about it, right? Like just in simple conversation.
Yeah.
Let's say 100 megawatts is $35 million to build, right? With and including substation, right? So but so you'd have to say power transformer connected to a building, 100 megawatts air building, and then so let's just say that's 35 million, and then let's just say a liquid building is 50 million, right? So that's the difference, right? And so I think that what's more important in that number, right, between those two numbers, I think is longevity, the opportunity to create a better, safe work environment, and the opportunity to in an immersion building, I do these tours and I tell everybody on these tours, I think that the future employee of that is nobody that we remotely think would be doing it. I personally believe it is it's a single mom, right? And I come from a single mom, but I think it's a single mom. Why? Because single mom needs healthcare, right? We provide great healthcare. Single mom needs a great job that's good paying, and a single mom is willing to learn anything to improve her family's life. And so we spent a lot of time looking at how to create a product that it didn't matter who you were, right? Didn't matter how tall you were, didn't matter how strong you were. All it was, we needed somebody that was willing to try something new. And then we could create the environment for them to be successful in it. And I think that is where we spent a lot of time here at Whinstone, and with Riot's governance and our engineering teams and our structure and how our culture is here. And, I think the best example is there was a video that was put out last week that I had no idea about. And it was from employees, right? It was the people that work here. And that is the reason why we spend so much time trying to improve the quality of our workforce, because that is what really matters. At the end of the day, anybody can get the money to build this stuff, right? Like anybody can raise capital, especially when Bitcoin's this high, right? Go raise capital when it's $4,000. Let me tell you, it's really, really, really tough, nearly impossible. We did it already. But what's even more important is to create an environment that people are so wanting to come experience, right? And I think that is the differentiation of what Riot has allowed us to do, right? And the more that this company becomes a true singular structure, right? Because a lot of people get confused. They're like, are you Whinstone? Are you Riot? I'm always like, I work for Riot. I run the brand Whinstone. Every single person here is a Riot employee. And we you cut our wrist, Riot comes bleeding out, right? And I think that's a really, really important component.
I think you're establishing there a very good culture. So I'm very excited to visit you guys there.
Yeah,
The
you
biggest
have to
mining
come.
facility in the world. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, let's hold on. We don't know that for fact. We only know
Yeah.
that it's fact in North America.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, and I say that because
one of the biggest, let's say.
yeah, one of the biggest, right? Because, you know, it's important for us to remain, you know, transparent in our process here.
Yeah, for sure. Another very interesting part is the energy part for me. Yeah, you have this big substation there where you get the electricity over the road, but there's also this Alcoa smelter, I think, around the corner. Is it still active, or do you share this energy with these guys?
No. So Alcoa closed in 2005.
Oh,
and then
okay.
Lumina Power Plant closed in 2008. So every once in a while, people are like, oh, that's a coal plant they're getting power from. That's been closed for a long time. So 90% of all of Texas participates in the ERCOT grid, meaning Whinstone's energy comes from ERCOT. It's the same energy that I buy at my house comes from ERCOT. The same energy that the grocery store in town gets, it all comes from ERCOT. 90% of the people. It's 26 million customers. There's 8.5 million meters. There's 750, 760 generation facilities here in Texas, whether it's, you know, natural gas, solar, wind, what, you know, biomass, whatever the combination is. And so I think it's important that so less than 2% of all power in Texas is used by Bitcoin miners. I actually think it's way less than that, right? But I'm not going to go out there and like figure it out, right? So I know it's less than 2%. I think it's far less than that. But what's important is that, you know, obviously, you know, the whole Bitcoin philosophy is that, you know, we're the users of energy that's wasted, right? But I think more importantly, here in Texas, we're the users of energy, and within moments of a notice, we actually can turn our facility off and support the grid. And why is that important? Is because under times of stress, right? So times of stress, right? So a lot of people want to know what I mean by times of stress. So during the summer, June, July, August, September, when the temperatures rise, in Texas, you typically get a text message in the afternoon. And then in the afternoon, it says, please conserve your energy. Please turn it for thermostats, right? Because it's about to be hot. It's going to be 100 degrees. And so facilities like ours have the opportunity to offshed their power. And for that, we receive a small, consistent reduction in our transmission costs. So there is a compensation, but it's not wild, but it's wild enough for you to be a good corporate citizen. Some of the other things that are really important here in Texas is that I think the future, a lot of people are like, oh, you can turn your power off and sell it, right? That's like people talk about all the time. Oh, you can turn your power off and sell it. I think the days of turning your power off and selling it are few and far between, because the market has changed dramatically. I believe that the future of managing your power is through ancillary services here in Texas. And what I mean by that is controlled load response services, demand response, and load response. And all those are kind of under that umbrella. And it's important that Bitcoin miners, as they enter into these markets in towns, whether it's in Texas or it's in Nova Scotia, doesn't matter where it is, that they are very concerned about being a good corporate citizen, and they educate their community, and they spend time in their community, and they talk to the community about the importance of how they treat their power, right? We know that a Bitcoin mining facility can be turned off in 5 seconds or faster. You can click a button next door and we can turn our entire substation off, like literally click and there's no power here. And so because of that opportunity, it allows us to support our community around here. You know, there's 25,000 people. And a lot of people, you know, I get asked all the time, like, oh, are you really going to do that? Right? And I always say, I get coffee at a gas station in the center of town. There's only 5,000 people in the little town I live in. And I see them every day, right? I see these people every day. I know their names. I know their kids. I've been invited to their birthday parties. You know, I've gone to their kids' football games, right? My kids are grown, but I've gone to kids. I've flipped hamburgers in the concession stand at the high school, right? So I can learn about the community. And and you have to be a good corporate citizen. You see these people every day at dinner. This is a small town, and the ability for Bitcoin mining facilities to go into small rural parts of the world, it doesn't have to be United States, anywhere, and impact those communities and actually do good is greater than anything that we can do.
Great. Yeah, and these facilities, these mining facilities, they have the ability to shut down immediately, as you explained, and that's the big benefit. And compared to a Google data center or Facebook data center or something like this, they need like 100%. They need big redundancy and all these things. So they cannot play with the grid. But you can, and that's the big benefit here for the grid, stabilizing the grid. So yeah, what is the uptime for? I think you cannot disclose the 100% number, but yeah, when I checked the monthly results, they were very good in my opinion. You mined a lot of Bitcoins, so it looks like there is not a lot of shutdowns or even only short term.
Yeah, so I think the way you have to look at it, so I mentioned before, you have June, July, August, September, right?
Yes.
Those are what's called the 4 curtailment periods of the year. They ask you, if you can, to conserve your power as a industrial user during those times of the month, those times during the year. And historically, over 15 years, you can go look at the data. You shut off for about 72 events, right? Over those 4 months, about 72 times, somewhere between 15 minutes and 3 hours. And if you just do like the fast math, I'll do it for you. It's about 206 to 240 hours in a year, right? And so that amount of time really provides great stability into the grid, and it really is effortless. And it's a
like
great
3% or so. That's good.
That's probably about the right number. And I think so. We do things during that time, like a lot of people, I'm sure, that are aware, like these large facilities have a lot of power, and places that have a lot of power require a lot of maintenance. So we change, 4,000 amp breaker. Like we do all of our maintenance work during those times. Like we deploy teams to do things that we can only do when it's power's off, right? So you do a lot of that stuff during those times.
Okay, very interesting. Another big topic right now in this industry is also the ESG part. I heard that in Texas there are big build outs of wind farms and solar power plants, like in the gigawatt area. So yeah, what can you see there in Texas? Is this really happening?
Yeah, so I think there's, I tell everybody when they ask this question, right? Because I think it's a tough question. It's a tough question for anybody to answer. It's funny that I have a power consultant, Priority Power, that's been with me when we had no facility and no money, and like they always return my phone call. I always joke, like John Bick is one of the principal partners. John, I joke, I was like, John, you just could not call me back. He's like, oh man, I figured you would be the guy that would do it, right? And that's kind of the joke we have between the two of us. And I think it's important because they sent me some, they always send me funny things, and they're like, oh, by the way, Christmas lights used more power than Bitcoin mining in terawatt hours, right? And it's like, because like I was a big Christmas tree guy, right? And so It's like just kind of like a joke. It's like, oh, my prior business used more power than Bitcoin mining does, right? Like if you kind of look at it. But I think you can't go in and say I can solve the environmental problem, right? So, and the reason, and I'll be bold and say, because our technology isn't there yet, meaning storage batteries aren't there yet. Transmission gets lost. There's all types of things. But what is happening that I think is important is that the Texas grid, and you can Google, ERCOT facts, and it's fascinating information. It's like a 1-pager that comes out every month, and you can learn about what changed in the grid. And what's interesting is that you'll notice that renewables are climbing to, I believe they're almost to 34% now, right? And so when I started out here, it was like 18%, right? So you're seeing this massive improvement. There's guys like Mike Scully down in Houston that are working on transmission to get the stranded renewable power out of the West, right? So you're going to see big changes there. And I think that's also really important that you take the opportunity and look at the social side and go, you can impact these communities, right? Like we've done a lot of stuff in these communities. And, you know, I joke, like, I heard that the town in Rockdale had never had a swim team, but 84 kids signed up for it. But then they didn't have any of the things they needed for a swim team. They had a pool. I was like, well, I was a swimmer. We'll just buy all the stuff. And then COVID hit, right? So the kids didn't get to have the swim team, right? So we did it again. And it's, you know, it's like you have to go into the community and you have to go help them fix their softball fields. And you have to go, like, you just do stuff. And probably our big thing is, like, you know, you'll see pictures or you'll see videos or you see people, anytime people say things that I can't really respond to, I always post a picture of my dogs and say, send dog treats, right? Like that's my response. Like, hey, I can't, like, you're asking me stuff that's just unreasonable for me to answer. Send dog treats. And so we're real big dog people. And so in town here, we actually fixed the animal shelter and like renovated, and our own staff did it at their own personal time. And it's those kind of things that while it's impossible to battle somebody against power, right? We can disagree to disagree, right? But we're also using power that when we use that power in the middle of the night, those generators stay on. They remain more profitable. They're not wasting power. Therefore, long-term power prices are cheaper. That consumers paying less power at their home because Bitcoin miners have the opportunity to help stabilize that. We're also the guys that are turning off because we have these long-term power contracts that have an excessive amount of capital that's required to support them. And we turn off so that power can be shed back into the community to keep other people's power on. And I think that is where this whole landscape needs to go when people start talking about that. I think it's important that people recognize that while no business is perfect, you have good corporate citizens. Like Riot's mission is to be transparent and to be the gold standard. And I know we are the gold standard, right? And it's because of that opportunity, we can change how people view this industry if everyone else comes up and starts behaving the same way. And I think it's really, really, really important.
Yeah, that's maybe with these publicly traded miners we have now. I mean, for years there were no publicly traded miners. They were all very hiding and into different locations.
Secretive.
Secretive. Yeah. And there's still a lot of, but yeah, we have now a new class of miners, publicly traded, very transparent communication, and I think this improves the industry. And
it does.
Yeah, and in Texas, it looks like they're more and more blockchain friendly. They're good to miners, it seems like. So it seems like it's going to be the new mining hub in the world. And yeah, I mean,
no, it is the mining hub.
It is the mining.
Texas is its own country. It's the greatest country on the planet, right here in Texas.
Cool. Yeah. So how is it to live in Texas? I've never been there.
Well, so it's funny that I came from New Orleans, Louisiana, right? Yeah. So I moved here from New Orleans. Some of the best cuisine known out there, right? Wonderful restaurants, culture. I lived in a home that was over 100 years old. 3-story Victorian. I loved it. And I moved to Texas, and I moved to a small town. And when we first got here, Lyle and I lived in a barn, right? We lived in a barn that had a bathroom because we couldn't find a place to live. And then slowly but surely, we found a home to buy, and 4 of us bought a home and lived there with our 6 dogs. And a fiance would come in every once in a while, and a girlfriend would come in every once in a while. But 4 guys lived in a house with 6 dogs and built this company. And today I believe our successes because we went to work every day as a team and rarely argued, right? Like we had disagreements, but we never argued, because if we had an argument, we had to go deal with it at home, right? Like you're in like I joke, I'm like, I shared a bathroom with Dave. Like I couldn't be mad at him. We shared a bathroom, right? Because that's all we had. And really we would take and debate at night and solve our problems, but we'd also sit around the kitchen island and design our next idea. and it was like we living in that environment just forced us to focus at like exponential speed. And it really, the last 2 years have been incredible, really. Like most people in their adult life never have the opportunity to hit the reset button and go do something and be like, it doesn't matter. Like we even, Lyle and I used to look at each other at night and we'd be like, hey, if this was our last day, this is the greatest day of our lives. And we'd say that like at least 3 times a week, right? And people would be like, really? And I'm like, absolutely. Like if it all fell through, we were like, it doesn't matter. Greatest time of our lives.
Great attitude. Yeah, in the blockchain or Bitcoin space, yeah, you're meeting these people. They're thinking big. They don't care about the past or something like this. They're just on a mission, and I can feel this right now for myself too. It's a great feeling. I've never experienced this in the other jobs, where it's always 9 to 5, and yeah, you do things you don't like. Yeah, in this industry, and it's like yeah, you love it, and you do more than you would usually do in another job. And yeah,
absolutely,
that's what the passion is just great, because yeah, we're all on a mission here, and yeah, we will hopefully yeah, bring things yeah, better with yeah, Bitcoin mining, the whole Bitcoin industry. I think it's a big improvement for the world. Yeah,
absolutely. And we're just starting. Like
yeah.
we're just getting started. Like we haven't even like we're just warming up. This is like we haven't begun to run that marathon yet. Right, we're still stretching. We're at the starting line. We're all drinking cups of water, looking at one another like, what are we about to do to ourselves?
Cool. Okay. Yeah, Chad, we're coming to the end. What would be interesting for the followers, and they ask me, yeah, we have seen some videos on YouTube. Yeah, you were driving these nice Ford pickup truck there, the F-140, like the typical American car. Yeah, what is your favorite car? What do you like?
So it's funny that you asked me before, right? And so I drive a Ford Raptor, right? And so we actually have 3 Ford Raptors, right? I have a Raptor, Dave has a Raptor, Lyle has a Raptor, and Ashton has a big like F-250 diesel. And so originally when we got here, we used to drive, we built a Raptor course, right? And while we would wait for deliveries, because it would be, you're out here by yourself. There was nothing, no power, no water. And we would just be waiting for deliveries to show up. So we built a Raptor jump course, right? And we would drive the Raptors around and jump the Raptors, right? And then so slowly but surely, as we weren't allowed to do that anymore. We recognized. But I gotta say, when early on, one day Lyle asked me, he was like, hey, what's your favorite car? Or what's a car that's your favorite car that you never thought you could get your hands on? I was like, oh, well, I had a Porsche and I had an M5 and I had all these cool cars. I was like, but
German cars, by the way.
Yeah, of course, German cars, And I'd be like, my last name, my grandparents' last name is Hensel, right? So good German name. And so I sat there, I was like, I'm going to tell you, it's a 1967 VW Westie bus. And so just before leaving for Texas, after we like got this whole deal worked out, the guys delivered me a gift, and it was a 1967 Westie. And it's the greatest thing in the world. Like I still have to have it renovated, but like the joke is, right? Like all along the way, like in my whole life, right? The joke about me turning 50 was I'm taking my dog Shadow. I'm going to get in a VW bus. I'm going to travel the world and I'm going to make macaroons and take pictures, right? Like I was like, that'll be it. That'll be my thing. But a 1967 Westie, which is pretty wicked. Yeah, right. I really like that.
You should share some pictures about this car.
I am. I'm gonna have it. I'm gonna fix it. Like I need to put like a Subaru engine in it, and like I need to do some things to it so you can like drive it like a regular person.
Yeah, you can do it in the bear market.
Yeah, that's what I'll do it. Yeah, no. Trust me. Yes, don't worry, Jason. I'm just gonna work nonstop. I promise.
Okay. Cool. Okay, Chad.
Hey, I want to do one thing. Come on. Like I've never done this, right? So this would be a good one, right? So like, hey, right? Like what kind of look at that. That's what I'm talking about. That's a selfie.
Nice one. Yeah, maybe next time Yeah, and in
We'll
real
do it in
life.
real person. Yeah.
Yeah,
You
I'm
gotta,
a real person too.
you're a real person. You got to come here. I know you're not make believe.
Yeah.
Hey, I do appreciate. I have to say, I do appreciate. That when you share posts and things like that, it really is. It really is. It's rewarding that people in this industry are open to see other people be successful, and I think it's great.
Thank you. Yeah, I really love this. I love this industry. I think it's such a small industry right now that people are not recognizing it. When I see the follower numbers on Twitter for companies and so on, all the tweets there, and they're like 5 responses or so. We are so early. I feel this. Yeah, people cannot see the potential there. I can see it. Some others see it, but we're still very early, and that's what we have to understand here. So we have a lot of growth, in my opinion, in the future.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Agree more.
That's good. Okay. So I don't want to waste more of your time, because I think you have to build a big facility there.
I got to get to work. I got miners are showing up outside. Come on,
that's
hey, look,
more
and you're
important.
seeing you actually getting it in real time, right? It's 9:40 in the morning or 8:40 in the morning. Miners are sitting outside.
Yeah, plug them in, Chad.
That's it. Plug them in. That's right.
Okay,
right.
so thank you very much for joining.
Absolutely.
It was a great chat, and hopefully we can do it soon again.
In person.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me today.
Thank you.